By blending a red wine into a white wine.
Yeah, I know. I've just seen the EU as just they were going to put through that law where you could do that throughout the EU.
Yes, actually, it has. I think it has been implemented. Actually,
No.
It hasn't.
No, they stopped it.
They stopped it.
Yeah.
Oh, because I know that some producers were talking about it in the south of France.
They probably. Oh yeah, they kicked up a big stink in the south of France.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to ruin our industry and our history and stuff like that. And I think the EU backed down and have continued or maintained the law as it stands.
Well, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But champagne is different.
It's always different.
Why? Because it's all about blending, as I said.
Yeah.
And therefore it makes sense that you can actually blend if you want to, rather than doing a maceration, traditional skin contact fermentation to obtain the color.
Yeah.
Therefore, naturally, champagne can, add red wine rather than just doing the maceration technique, which is called the saignée method, the old method or the traditional one where you leave the skin in contact with the juice in order to get the color.
There's still a few that do that, aren't there?
There are a few that do it. It's much more difficult to control.
Yeah.
Of course, because you have to, watch your wine, and even though we're adding red wine here, it's not easy. It definitely is not easy. Our cellar master, who is a very experienced cellar master, 30 years making the wine at Ayala, Nicola Klein, says that the rosé is the most difficult wine to make of the range.
Because it's getting it just right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's more than just blending the non-vintage, which is already the most difficult wine to make it consistent.
Yeah.
It's like, mixing colors and styles together to get one style, one wine.
Especially since it's non-vintage, so you've got to get that kind of colour looking the same every year.
Every year. The profile of the wine has to be the same every year. And but what is much more interesting about the rosé of Ayala, which is called rosé majeur, just like the brut majeur, rosé majeur is quite different because it has a much lighter style than what you would tend to find in champagne. As I was explaining, Chardonnay is the queen of grapes.
Yeah.
We want to make a rosé that is perfect for summertime, perfect for romance, therefore much lighter, fresh, charming.
French.
And we have therefore decided to put an emphasis on Chardonnay rather than Pinot Noir, which is usually the case in champagne for a rosé. Most rosés are going to be made with Pinot Noir, almost 100%, sometimes 80% Pinot Noir, sometimes some Pinot Meunier. Very rarely a lot of Chardonnay. And at Ayala, we always make our rosé blend with at least 50% Chardonnay in the blend. So considering that Chardonnay is already a grape that tends to have a lot of influence, that takes over the general profile of the blend when it reaches 25% of the blend, when it's at 50%, it's really clearly a Chardonnay dominated, Chardonnay has the Chardonnay character more than anything else.
But it's quite aromatic on the nose, for me.
Yes, it is. And also, remember, Ayala is a specialist in the low dosage category. Not only do we have a very high proportion of Chardonnay, we're also exposing the fruit a lot here because the dosage is only 7 grams per liter. And most rosés will tend to be maybe 14 sometimes. Double that. So that's why the fruit also naturally comes through. And Chardonnay tends to also enhance fruit flavors.
Well, I don't get so much fruit off the nose, I just get this kind of lovely floral kind of aromatic on the nose, which quite surprised me actually.
Primary notes, definitely. Floral or fruit. But then on the palate, you're going to start to pick up those red fruit flavors.
Yeah.
Very delicate strawberry, raspberry,
you get definitely strawberry.
Bit of cherry. And that is, and without that tannic character that you would tend to get on some rosés that macerate with the skins.
And also quite really nice and quite dry.
Extremely dry.
Yeah.
Extremely dry, but not aggressive. It's just
absolutely.
the right level of sugar to, offer the fresh, charming champagne experience and that wine experience at the same time.
And what food would you recommend to eat with that? Because
just on its own, first of all, it's great as a cocktail champagne and aperitif. But with food, also the Ayala wines tend to be very, very assertive because that dry character, the acidity which is there but not aggressive, makes the wines pair very well with many types of foods. For rosé, I would say maybe salmon, just because of the color, first of all, and the dryness and the acidity.
My
also
wine matches my food.
Cuts through the fat.
Yeah, no, the acidity is pretty good.
One of the best pairings I had with rosé was a fillet of salmon with a saffron sauce.
So one of the best pairings I have.
Fresh vegetables. And
pork belly.
Pork belly as well. Yeah, that's a very interesting one. Duck.
Duck
magret can be great with rosé. You know, you got to play with colors and flavors. Make sure that the flavors are not too strong to overtake the wine,
because
overshadow the wine.
It's quite delicate.
Extremely delicate.
Yeah.
So you have to look for something delicate as well.
Yeah.
And also fruit, red fruit, strawberries, raspberries. The components that you find in the wine, you can also play with in the food you're going to associate with the wine.
I would never associate kind of champagne with dessert and fruit and...
You can, though. Make sure, that, however, that the dessert is not going to be too sweet, because we have a dry wine here.
Yeah.
If you're putting something sweet against that dryness, it's going to seem even drier. That is why we tend to recommend a sweeter champagne, a demi-sec, for example. We make a demi-sec at Ayala called Riche Majeur, which is exactly the same wine as these two here, the Brut and the Zero, but with 40 grams sugar per liter. But it's actually got that structure of the Brut Majeur behind it, which is a great wine again, so it doesn't seem that there is a lot of sugar.
So how big is Ayala as a champagne house in vineyard size?
It's very small. Very small. We are, again, a jewel in Champagne. It's the smallest. We're today the smallest in size of the Grand Marques.
Okay.
So, the total production is 700,000 bottles. Considering that many Grand Marques produce 5, 10 million, 15, 20 million, sometimes up to 40 million bottles.
And as Ayala, I know, because in the Second World War, the champagne houses blocked up a lot of their caves and stuff like this, and hid a lot of their decent wine. Does Ayala have reserve of wine going back?
Unfortunately, not too far.
Okay.
Not because the bottles were destroyed or anything. Simply because when Bollinger took over the house 4 years ago now,
they had a big party and celebrated.
How did you guess? No.
That
would have been a bit too much. But no, we would be very fortunate to have the library that existed before. But we do have some, but probably not as far from having as many as most houses would have.
Right. Okay.
For the simple reason that the former owners before Bollinger, when they sold the house to Bollinger, decided to keep most of those wines.
Wise move.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing, and actually, I held a party at Ayala in July, where I invited all my friends from all the other champagne houses. So, a bunch of young export managers, enologists, young cellar masters were there, and we had a great evening, dinner and wine, and I managed to get out of the cellar some nice bottles, and Hervé, my boss, said to everyone, you better thank Raymond because he robbed the cellar for you guys. And no, and it was a great experience for me as well, because I don't taste those wines very often. We keep them for special occasions, you know, to either taste with a journalist or but you know, Ayala has a new face today with a new profile on the wines with the zero dosage concept. So it's not really interesting when you think about it to look at the wines of the past, considering what Ayala is today. It is always interesting because it's nice to look at the history.
Where it's gone.
But I mean, if we're talking about Ayala today, there's not much point in looking at the old wines. You see?
You've only got the last
other than treating yourself. You know. And we did have a couple of nice bottles that evening, and everybody was suitably impressed by the old wines of Ayala.
Right. Anyway, better wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ram. Nice to see you again.
Thanks a lot for the welcome.
See you again.
Cheerio.